This is a realistic Thanksgiving. This is reality for a lot of Americans. The traditional Thanksgiving dinner does not take into account people who don't have access to fresh vegetables or a whole turkey. The hunt starts off fairly easily. With a relatively good selection of frozen vegetables, we can grab a couple of bags of carrots and butter sauce. We can also grab a bag of frozen green beans because even though canned green beans are better for green bean casserole, you get twice as much with the frozen version. Other things are fairly simple: cream of mushroom soup and some fried onions. There's also a good selection of instant potatoes, and we can even pick up a couple of flavors to mix together for something unique. Also a can of cranberry jelly. Now the easy stuff is done, we have to make some hard choices. What are we going to have for a main dish when we can't have a turkey or a ham? Dollar Tree has these country ham slices, but they're salt cured and they're very salty, and there's almost no way to cook them in a way that takes that away. So we move on to the canned proteins, and there's really not a better selection there. Mostly a lot of seafood and some processed meats. But maybe if we grab a couple of cans of Spam and make it like a honey glazed ham, it'll have somewhat of the same effect. So then we try to get the rest of the ingredients as accurately as we can, starting with this honey blend syrup. Then we needed pineapple juice, but they only have pineapples in syrup, so hopefully the syrup will work the same. And of course some Dijon mustard. We still need a dessert, but the store was out of eggs and margarine, and most of the dessert mixes that they have call for either or both. But maybe you'll get lucky and find a prepared cookie dough in the freezer so that you can have a somewhat fresh dessert on Thanksgiving. And they even had a few flavor choices to choose from: chocolate chip, snickerdoodle, and rainbow chip. A warm and fresh bread would be nice, so pick up a packet of biscuit mix that only requires water to make. I counted all the items in my cart and only had 15 items, which comes out to $18.75, so I knew I could buy one more item and stay in the $20 range. Ideally, this would have been stuffing mix, but there was no stuffing anywhere in the store, so I ended up picking a box of macaroni and cheese. Now this is another one of those, ideally it would have been the kind that doesn't require milk or butter to prepare it, but I've shown you guys how to make it without butter and milk in the past anyways. So this is my $20 Dollar Tree Thanksgiving haul, and it's as accurate as possible, assuming the challenges that someone else might face. I didn't hyperinflate this or shop at multiple stores. I just went to my Dollar Tree and bought what I could. Here's how I made a Thanksgiving dinner with only $20 of ingredients from Dollar Tree and only using my stovetop. Starting with green bean casserole, bring a pot of water up to a boil, salt the water if desired, add in your green beans, return it to a boil, then reduce your heat to low, cover and simmer for 5 minutes. If you see any stemmy bits, go ahead and remove those in the process. Drain your green beans and return them to the pot along with your can of cream of mushroom soup and a half a can of water. You don't need milk to prepare green bean casserole, it only adds creaminess, but it's not a necessary ingredient. Return this mixture to the stovetop to heat through, and then if desired you can add a handful of fried onions into your casserole mixture. Add it to a casserole dish and top with the remaining fried onions. You don't necessarily need to bake this as the fried onions are already crispy. For the potatoes, just heat up 4 cups of water to a boil and then whisk in your instant potatoes. I actually mixed 2 flavors together and I really like this flavor combination. It might be one of my new favorites. For the macaroni and cheese, cook according to the package instructions, but before draining the noodles, reserve a half a cup of the pasta water. We'll use that in place of the milk and butter on the package. Then drain the noodles and stir in the reserved pasta water and the cheese sauce packet. The Bisquick mix can be mixed with 1/3 of a cup plus 1 tablespoon of water, and then I fried it in a skillet with a tablespoon of oil. I just dropped my biscuit dough into a medium heat skillet, and then once it was kind of browned up on the bottom, I flipped them over and reduced the heat to low, covered with a lid, and simmered for 10 minutes until the biscuits were cooked through. It's an identical process for baking the cookies in the skillet, except you use a dry skillet and don't flip them. As far as the honey glazed Spam, I think this was the part that intrigued most people, and I wish it had worked out, but I think Dollar Tree has changed the recipe for the Spam in the past year since I used it, because I remember using it for Spam fried rice and it not being too bad, but this time it definitely had a bit of an off taste to it, almost sour taste, so I would not recommend this one, so I'm not really going to share the recipe because I don't want anyone replicating it. But I do think that this would work out potentially with the deli ham, and I don't really know why I didn't think of that to begin with, or some of you had suggestions on how to make the country ham work. For the carrots, I just steam them in the bag per the package instructions, and then because I've had these before and I know they're a little off tasting, I did drizzle them with some honey to sweeten them up a bit. And the last part, but the easiest part, is just mashing up the jellied cranberry. Here's my final thoughts and takeaway. The mashed potatoes were 10 out of 10 amazing, so were the green bean casserole, and I especially liked the macaroni and cheese when it was mixed with the mashed potatoes. I used the cranberry sauce as a spread for the biscuits since we didn't have any butter. And as far as the carrots go, I still don't really like them, but I also don't really like carrots, and of course, as I mentioned, I didn't like the honey glazed spam at all. And the cookies were definitely the best part.